sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
The pocket kind of collapses on him. That's playing in the NFL. And can you, be compact? Can you find a way to get that ball thrown to the open receiver without your arm getting tipped? I'll go back and see kind of what happened protection-wise. But ultimately, I just think that's playing in this league, and we're in kind of that fringe field goal range. Can we secure points? Can we be safe with that ball? And then, obviously the last interception, I think he just kind of lost track of where that post safety was and just tried to press to make that play that we were trying to make all night.
And for those reasons, I'm out.
If
this was an episode of Backup Quarterback Shark Tank. So the Vikings went and they traded for one about 48 hours after the debacle that we all witnessed on Saturday here. This is a Juddless version of Mackey and Judd statements here. If you missed it, we've talked about this on Purple Daily the last couple days, and he's been tweeting about it. So while we were doing Action Movie Rewind and Purple Daily, etc. on Friday, unbeknownst to us, Judd was battling immense pain in his side and stomach area because he had a partially ruptured appendix that led to emergency appendectomy surgery on Saturday night. So Judd, he's for sure going to be in the hospital through Monday. He is alive and alert on our group text thread. He's not very comfortable. We hope that he has a speedy recovery here at some point. And then, not that this is as bad as what Judd's going through, but I tested positive for COVID and feel like garbage here the last 24 hours. First time. 2.5 years, man. I thought I maybe escaped it, but no, I feel like crap today. So we're limping into this Monday, man, into the last week in August.
I have a nephew's birthday party on Monday afternoon or Monday evening tonight, and I'm now like, should I just come on a bubble wrap? Because like my two co-hosts are limping here. Like I'm Dylan. I'm now your ace. I'm Dylan Bundy here. I have to start game one at this point. This is not ideal for your rotation. But hey, got to labor through, and I plan to do so.
I'm glad you brought up Dylan Bundy because later on in the Twins portion of statements, I actually have a Dylan Bundy statement here.
Wow!
I'm going to stand up for the guy that I've been defending all season. But all right, the Vikings traded, and we did a full breakdown of Nick Mullins. If you want the Purple Daily breakdown, you can catch that. But let's get into some Vikings-related statements here. And I'll give you this one, Dex.
Okay.
Mike Zimmer was right about a few things. Now, I'm not saying that because he was right, he deserves to be the coach of this team anymore. I think 8 years was a good run. He'll go down as one of like the 3 or 4 best head coaches in Vikings history, but his time had very clearly come to an end. Frayed relationships with players and front office. So I'm not saying that he deserves to still be the head coach. But he was right about Kellen Mond. He was disrespectful in the way that he went up to a podium after that Green Bay game and trashed the young man dismissively. But he was not very impressed with Kellen Mond. And I think after seeing him in the second preseason game, hearing Kevin O'Connell just sort of speak blasé about him, and then all the different reports that are coming from Vikings training camp, Mike Zimmer was right about Kellen Mond. I think Mike Zimmer was right about most of the third rounders being in the doghouse, Wyatt Davis. Mm-hmm. And he tried at every turn not to use it as an excuse, but to say, listen, my defense is still pretty good if you get Danielle Hunter back in. And I think he was right about that too. The statistics bear that out. So listen, we've spent the whole offseason, we meaning like collectively, the organization, fans, the media, just burying Mike Zimmer for being the cancer of this team. But he was right about a few things on the way out the door, Dex.
Kind of reminds me of the Billy Madison scene where he gets clowned for just not answering the question in the Final Jeopardy. And then Billy's like, I think a simple wrong would have done just fine instead of just being completely belittled by the question guy. So yeah, he was probably right about Kellen Mond to a degree. He was disrespectful in his way. I think he could have handled that a lot better. But you know what? He was right that he probably wasn't ready to be the quarterback. And this is where I think also you got to have a GM and head coach on the same page. Like Mike Zimmer can be right about his evaluations too, but like Rick Spielman's got to be, I think, communicating more with his head coach. Those are 3 third-round picks, and one of them might turn out to be okay, but those are just botched picks, man. Those are just absolutely botched picks. And I think having a GM and head coach on the same page is very, very important when you're drafting and trying to fulfill a 53-man roster.
Yeah. It's he played the guys that deserve to be played, right? He gave he gave some shine to Christian Darrisaw, became the starter after he got over the injury stuff, and he looked at Mond and he looked at Wyatt Davis and said, not feeling these two guys. And the new regime has done the same thing. I think those were two of the guys that we looked at and said, the new regime is going to finally give those guys the chance they deserve. It's like, well, Wyatt Davis can't even get run with the twos. Right. Wyatt Davis has been on the third string offensive line the entire offseason with the new regime. And Kellen Mond has been so bad, the Vikings just traded for Nick Mullins. So, again, I don't know. I'm not saying he deserves to come back as head coach or anything, but all right, let's put some respect on his name here. He didn't just become a dummy overnight.
Well, actually dovetails into my first statement for that's Vikings related, and it's the Vikings might have a very impactful 2022 rookie class. So if you really go up and down this list from the picks, and some of these guys might not be starters immediately in week one, I think they have a really intriguing rookie class that can make an impact right away. So even if Lewis Cine isn't starting, I still think he finds ways to get on the field. Even when he was at Georgia, he didn't always play safety. He did play some nickel cornerback. He was able to get in at linebacker. Like, he was just this Swiss Army knife on that insanely good Bulldog defense. And he kind of reminds me of a Harrison Smith clone. Like, he really could be the next type of Harrison Smith, another legendary safety. I'm curious how he fits in. Obviously, Ed Ingram is tracking to be a week one starter. I mean, of all these guys, I think when we probably were initially out of the draft, we probably thought Ed Ingram, okay, I wonder what his chances are to be a week one starter. Well, that dude has taken the right guard spot and has ran with it. He's going to be most likely your week one starter and finally, hopefully, solidify some interior offensive line play that has just plagued the Vikings over the last 10 years. Your pecking order from last week was just amazing, going through all the hilarious right guards that they have just missed on. And that's been pretty brutal. But then when we look to like the depth of this class, I think is really impressive too, with Ty Chandler, Brian Asamoah. There are some like legitimately intriguing pieces that might not be starters, but I think contribute to the Vikings right away, which is pretty rare to have like 4 or 5 guys from your rookie class contribute like that. The Vikings haven't had that, I think, since like 2015 when they took like Kendricks and Daniil. They had a really good class there, but this might be an impactful draft class right away in 2022.
Yeah, it's so hard. Even like the 2021 class is still playing out, but they made, over the course of this year under Kwesi and then last year under Spielman, I mean, let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 10 picks this year. And I think it was 10 or 11 picks last year. So call it 20 or 21 picks. Again, it's so early, but Cine is going to be a player. I think Booth is going to be a player. Ingram, Asamoah. I think Ty Chandler's a player.
Yeah.
Maybe a Caleb. So maybe call it 5, maybe
Caleb
6
Evans,
guys. Look like there's something there. And then in the 2021, Darrisaw looks like a player. Patrick Jones looks like a decent player. I'm not saying perennial Pro Bowlers here. Wongwu has already become a really good kick returner in the first year. Cam Bynum is a player. Emir Smith-Marset can play. So maybe call it 4 guys out of that class. You're not going to bat 1,000 on these draft classes. So if you draft 20 guys over 2 years and 7 to 10 of them become good players for you, I haven't done an audit through the entire league, but I think that's a success. So,
yeah, you don't want to have like too much preseason beer goggles on, right? Like we've seen some of these guys shine in preseason, and that's because they're getting opportunities because the starters aren't playing. But I really think so, man. I think that this rookie class can make impacts in pockets and in moments throughout the 2022 season. I'm excited to watch it.
Yeah. All right, my next statement here. It is incredible when you watch preseason football how dependent the NFL's entertainment value is on like 15 or 16 starting quarterbacks.
Yeah, man.
I mean, these backups. I mean, look at that game on Saturday. All of the quarterbacks in that game for both the 49ers and the Vikings struggled to do anything. I think the Niners in the run game moved the ball, but just like dink, dunk, the game is moving too fast. And these are backup quarterbacks. These are among the 60 to 75 best quarterbacks in the world. These guys were the best players on their high school teams. These guys were the best players in Power 5 college conferences. And it's so hard to play that position at a high level when you have 270-pound machines trying to destroy you on the other side of the ball and schemes. And these are like vanilla schemes you're seeing in the preseason. And these quarterbacks still struggle to do anything moving the ball down the field. And when you think about, the NFL is to me, it's the most entertaining professional sport. There's a reason why it does. And I love the NBA and Major League Baseball, and you guys love hockey, but like, if you took away the 15 best quarterbacks in the league, and Kirk is one of them for sure, it would be a borderline unwatchable sport, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be the USFL, basically.
God. It'd be terrible.
Which you love to watch, but...
Oh, yeah. Make predictions all the time. About 1,000. That's how I get my write that down average up. But yeah, it is remarkable. Like, I think you kind of opened my eyes to this like a year or two ago, and we started like really breaking down Kirk Cousins and his rankings among quarterbacks. And when you really break it down, there are only like 14 to 16 quarterbacks that are legitimately the best at their craft, and then there is a drop-off, like a significant drop-off. And when you really look at college football, and that's not my forte, there are hundreds of schools that are starting really good high school prospects that turn out to be also very good college football quarterbacks. And it's a razor-thin margin, the ones that end up being legitimate starting quarterbacks in the NFL that you can trust.
Yeah. Well, let's take, Nick Mullins is a great example. So Nick Mullins is not let's not pretend like the Vikings just traded for, an all-pro here to be the backup to Kirk Cousins. Nick Mullins is not that good of a quarterback. His teams are 5-12 in the games that he starts. Tends to throw a lot of interceptions, but you feel better about him than the other two guys that the Vikings have been running out there. In college, it was Conference USA, so it wasn't Power 5. At Southern Miss, his junior season, this guy threw 4,446 yards and 38 touchdowns, 9 yards per attempt. Big time college football. Yeah. And you put him in the NFL, and it's like, whoa, okay, this is different. Case Keenum, if I'm not mistaken, I think Case Keenum broke a bunch of college football records for passing. Yeah. And he did that, the magic carpet ride 13-3 season, the Minneapolis Miracle, but outside of that season, Case Keenum has been a struggle bus in the NFL. And I'm not ripping him. I'm just saying, like, outside of the 15, 16 quarterbacks, it's unwatchable and really, really hard.
I mean, my dude Kellen Mond at Boise State was like one of the most successful college quarterbacks of all time. I think he lost 3 games in 4 years as a starter at Boise State, and like was running up his own plays. He was making his own plays in high school, and now he's an offensive coordinator, and that's good for him. But like, think about that. A guy who was an unbelievable 4-year starter at Boise State, not a powerhouse, but still at the time was a very, very good football team, and he couldn't land a job. He was basically a backup for a few years with the Cowboys and Lions, and now he's an OC. But think about that. Like that's a drop-off from being one of the best college quarterbacks in the world to not even being a sniff of a legitimate quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It's so thank God for the 15 to 16 best quarterbacks in the world, because I don't know that I would watch this sport if they didn't exist.
All right, my next statement. I'm going to borrow it from Peter King. Monday, we had a little bit of a Monday morning quarterback, if you will. I know he's on Pro Football Talk now, but he posted a column today, and he made some stops around different Vikings different training camps, the Vikings being one of them. And when he listed his player to watch under the Vikings tab of his notes, he said, QB Kirk Cousins. Quoted saying, Cousins won't say it, but I think he got tired of the Zimmer negativity and should thrive under Kevin O'Connell, who will run a completion-based offense, likely with 2 or 3 more downfield throws per game, or at least chances for them, than Cousins is now used to. And I think this is exactly what they want to see from Cousins, right? Like, this is what we want to see from Kirk. And I've seen next-gen stats too. Well, he had the most completions of 20-plus yards last year. It's like, well, 2 or 3 more throws like that per game are great. And he has the capability to make those throws. I think that's what's more frustrating. If it was Teddy, who I do love, but like just can't push the ball down the field to save his life, that's frustrating because he doesn't even have the attributes to literally make those throws. Cousins has those attributes to make those throws. So I agree with Peter King. Kirk Cousins is obviously the X factor. Of course, he's the quarterback. He's the most talked about player on the roster. But when you see KJ Osborne starting to emerge right now, Justin Jefferson, who we've kind of been sleeping on in training camp, is still having an unbelievable camp and looks like he is indeed poised to be the best wide receiver in the NFL. And he was sick of the negativity. No, he can go on a radio talk show and say, no, I think it was overblown. And, me and Mike had a great relationship, and I'm thankful for him for all my time with them. But, I mean, that negativity festers for a while. And when you have a coach like Kevin O'Connell who kind of preaches more of that positivity, I think it is going to trickle down to Kirk Cousins. You're going to see a really, really good quarterback take more shots down the field in 2020-2022.
This should work. This partnership should work. There's enough pieces around. I think the biggest question is, sometimes Kirk can be very insular, and this is probably too deep of a psychological dive, but sometimes I wonder if Kirk has a little fear of success. Like if there's, that it's even hard for him to envision another level of his own leadership and success. And if there's some self-sabotage that happens, and again, like I know that he pulled a couple comebacks against the Lions, and he was better in some of those situations last year. But I'm so curious to see if there's another level to be unlocked mentally. I don't know that physically there's much to be unlocked, because when you're 34 years old, you kind of are who you are physically. But maybe just in terms of taking a few more risks and chances, calculated chances here. Yeah, I this is about the most excited I've been to watch Vikings football probably since he signed. I was very excited to see what it looked like when he signed in 2018. But God, there's just so many unknowns here. I mean, it wouldn't shock me. Here, I'll give you a statement off this.
Okay.
I think the floor for this team, if things train wreck, is like 7 or 8 wins. I'm saying if everyone largely stays healthy, if Cousins stays healthy, I don't see Cousins playing 16 or 17 games and the Vikings only winning 5 or 6. Like he is, throughout his career, he has been train wreck proof. But it wouldn't surprise me if this team had 12 or 13 wins in them. I don't think it's likely, but if this team at the end of the day say, yeah, you know what? Finally got an offensive system in here that makes sense, maximize the weapons, and the offensive line was better, and Kirk had a great relationship with his coach, and it resulted in 12 or 13 wins. I would not be shocked by that result.
I don't like playing the complete what-if game, with that was kind of the theme, I feel like, of the 2021 Vikings, with bad calls and just bad situations, being a horrible defense under 2 minutes of a half in a game. I don't like to play that game too much, but you do like to think that the law of averages start to even out a little bit at some point there, right? Like they won't be, knock on wood, horrendously that bad again under 2 minutes giving up points. They won't have all those calls that go against them, with Dalvin Cook's butt not being down in week 1, Greg Joseph missing a field goal. You'd love to think that some of those things end up going your way. And if you just take those 2 situations that I just talked about, well, that's 2 extra wins for the Vikings that they would have had in 2021. And now that you have a coach that leans into offense, isn't going to run it all the time on second and down, or second and long, I should say, it makes things a lot easier. And to my original point of this rookie class making an impact too, that could be a huge X factor. We know this offense is ready to go, and then with the defense being retooled under Ed Donatell's system and having a healthy Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, well, all of a sudden this goes from being a team that was good but not terrible, but a 7 to 8 win team. Well, if you scheme all those things appropriately and the law's averages start to even out a little bit more, that's a team that should be a double-digit win team and hopefully maybe even contends for the NFC North.
I haven't seen in the last couple weeks if there's been much movement, but I think I saw a couple sports books that had the Vikings creeping up to like 9.5. So It'll be interesting to see in the next 2 weeks what some of the final over-under futures, DraftKings and whatever, Caesars, what they wind up. What's the best case scenario? Because I think it started off at kind of 8.5. You saw some 9s, and then I saw 1 or 2 of them creep up to 9.5. So even the Vegas lines are moving in favor of the Vikings. Before we get to a couple more statements here, hello to our friends who are helping keep our lakeside areas clean during these summer months, Declan.
Yeah, that would be our friends at Aquaside and Aquaside.com. I had to do an emergency podcast yesterday from the cabin with you to break down the preseason football game. And now I wasn't live from the lake, no matter how great that Wi-Fi was at the cabin. I can't do the podcast from the water, but when I got off the microphone with you, I did run and jump off the dock, and I jumped into that lake, throwing some pigskin around too.
Nice.
And it was an Aquaside lake. There was none of that lake weed and algae. That's just the worst. When I'm trying to catch some footballs, okay, and I have to go down to the bottom of that lake because I'm missing the ball, I don't want to step in no lake weed and algae. That's right. Aquaside pellets help take care of that. It's a safe product too, registered with the EPA and DNR. They're located in White Bear Lake in the Twin Cities, but also you can order their product at aquaside.com. Go to aquaside.com to learn more.
The official dog food of Mackey and Judd is Nutrisource. So my dog Maya loves her Nutrisource chicken and rice food. It's a 3rd-generation family-owned company out of Perham, Minnesota. And Nutrisource dog food is all about digestion and gut health. Whether it's the humans on the show or the dogs on the show, we're all about digestion and gut health. Go to NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a retailer near you. NutrisourcePetFoods.com to find a retailer near you. All right, any final Vikings statements from you, Declan?
Just last one. We talked about it on Purple Daily today too, but my statement is the Vikings have a backup QB that can win them a game. He can win them a game. I feel a lot more confident that Nick Mullins can win the Vikings a game in a pinch than I do with Sean Mannion and Kellen Mond. And for the Vikings to just give up a 7th-round conditional pick, and I believe it becomes a legitimate 7th-round pick in the 2024 draft if he is active, which he most likely will be active at some point this season, if not right at the beginning. They have a backup QB that can win them a game, and that is all you can ask for from a backup quarterback. So thank you to Kwesi for going to get a legitimate backup quarterback.
I'll give you one more quick here. We need to ban handkerchiefs. I knew I was sitting there on the plane, and for people that heard the story on Purple Daily, I got messages from people on Twitter today saying, yeah, as you were telling that story, I was like, yeah, you're probably going to get COVID. Now, the guy to my right on this flight, 4 hours, continuously pulled his handkerchief out of his... By the way, he was storing the handkerchief in his left pocket nearest me. I was sitting on his left side. So he'd like kind of elbow out, go into his pocket, pull out the handkerchief. I don't know. Is there like handkerchief residue that's like falling off of it onto the armrest, onto my tray table? I was mortified for 4 hours thinking, well, this is it. 2.5 years I have avoided COVID. And this is how it's going to happen. Me just cornered up against the window seat on this flight while this guy coughs and blows his nose into a handkerchief. Why? And I'm sure he would have found something else, a napkin or something, but why do we use handkerchiefs in society? It's one of the grossest things I can think of. You're going to blow your disgusting snot and gunk into a rag and then put that rag in your pocket?
Yeah.
And then pull the rag back out with your bare hand? I mean, what?
Yeah. The pocket square on a suit coat is all for look. I don't plan to use that pocket square or anything else outside to make myself look damn good in that suit, right? I'm not going to have my nose touch it. I'm not going to give it, to the gal next to me if she needs to blow her nose for God. This is not 1942 anymore. Like, I don't need a handkerchief in my pocket for that. We have Kleenex. We have now hand sanitizer everywhere. And when this pandemic started, that was the most sought after thing. And now it is legitimately in any building. There's probably some hand sanitizer if you just scan your eyeballs. We don't need handkerchiefs, man. It's disgusting. I'm not a germaphobe. I know you're a big germaphobe. I'm not a germaphobe. I'm not that crazy. I don't have the next level of germophobia. But that is handkerchiefs. That's next level disgusting.
Dude,
there's no point.
I wasn't a germaphobe until two things. Until one, I met our old coworker, Rami Makloff.
That's right, yes.
Who is a germaphobe before COVID. So I met him, and then he would always kind of explain why you should be a germaphobe. And then COVID hit, and through those things, I have become much more of a germaphobe. I'm the guy that grabs the wipe from, the flight attendant will hand you the wipe on the plane, and I will wipe the table,
everything.
the screen, the arms, the buckle, everything, and then I will squirt my own hand sanitizer in. Unfortunately, I could have taken a 4-hour bath in hand sanitizer, and this guy's handkerchief would have broken through it. So let's ban handkerchiefs.
I'm with you.
For God's sake.